Hello and welcome back to Worlds 2021. T1 are preparing for their first match of the day against 100 Thieves. And before they head on to the Rift, Kobe wanted to show us some tech from FLICKR that underlines the attention to detail that makes T1 such a fierce opponent in neighborhood tactics, presented by State Farm.
Yeah, for no special reason at all, I happen to want to look at how T1 beat 100 Thieves, James, ahead of some games today. And it, again, is going to be precisely what we were talking about with EDG. It is that the most successful teams in this tournament so far have put everybody's efforts into tracking enemy jungle for the beginning of the game. Now, both teams are setting up for it here. You see the ward from 100 Thieves on Raptor Camp, and this is going to provide them the early information on the route here from Poppy. But as we roll this through, you'll see how T1 use their cooldowns a little bit more effectively. Bottom side sees the bottom side there from 100 Thieves, so they know that there's no pull here from Trundle, so plenty of time for FLICKR to push this wave in, and then a very common ward, let me stop it here, for our mid laners to put is just to hover here and then put a ward in a very shallow area by Raptors, because you can then see them as they transition into their red quadrant of the jungle. But he goes all the way to red to put it here, just in case they have Trundle trying to skip it. And indeed, Closer tries to circumvent the common ward that he thinks is on Raptors by blast coning over to the red and trying to think, oh, I'm remaining out of vision there of SKT. But because FLICKR takes the extra step as a mid laner to walk all the way to red buff, puts it there, it is going to give them perfect timing on when Closer is heading towards this bottom side matchup, and they see they're pushing the wave on bottom, so they're very well aware, let me pause it one more time here, of the crash on bottom side. This last minion is why FBI decided to dash in and engage on the bottom lane, because they think they're going to have a pincer through Tri-Brush, but because of that perfect timing, Oner is able to get to the Tri-Brush first and head off Trundle, and a little bit of a surprise to 100 Thieves, where they did know that Poppy was on this side of the map because of their ward on Raptors, but they erroneously assumed he was doing the full side clear because he's Trundle, and didn't expect the early move down because of FLICKR's ward on red.
Brutal. Closer calls the mind game, and then he gets double mind gamed with that very.
And then watch how it plays out.
And then
it's
of
not
course,
gonna be good.
We will watch how it plays out, and it does go T1's away. But as you mentioned, to me, this is the mark of the best teams in the tournament so far, the ones that can take these tiny incremental advantages that are based entirely on that information gain early in the game. We're going to walk back to the desk. We're going to loop Lyric back into this conversation as we look for a way, possibly, that 100 Thieves might be able to strike back here in this best of one against T1 to make the group interesting, because in a lot of ways, these are the teams right now that are fighting for that second seed possibly to get out of the group.
James, you and your LCS analysts go and talk about T1, and you come to the LPL guy for how 100 Thieves can win out the match.
Lay it on me!
Because we don't have the answer. That's why.
I do feel like the most interesting part of this matchup is even seeing that clip, right? Both of these teams, very bot side focused. I think with the information play coming out from T1, it was very clear they were able to win out in that play, but 100 Thieves are still going to draft for these strong bot lanes. I think 100 Thieves also have an idea that T1 can pull out things like the Aphelios Lulu, which the LCK and LPL teams have definitely loved in that matchup. And it gives, I think, 100 Thieves more wiggle room to try and get another matchup they're comfortable on, maybe play around this like vision game better, get some of their own wards on enemy camps, and try to circumvent, get to the play first, and look to win on that bottom side, because I still don't think top side is really a favorable place for the side of 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
We saw Canna doing quite well in that matchup last time around, and we've seen both mid laners. It's all about just roaming on the map.
I think go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking as well, one of the things with 100 Thieves, also a lot of people focused on draft, specifically the picks for top side of the map, for Ssumday up there to try and have some sort of pressure, but also for Closer in the jungle. There's just been such a stark difference between him on, carry champs like Viego or even facilitators like Lee Sin, and putting him on the Jarvan, where it's easily avoidable with flashes or dashes to get away from your flag and drag, and it is not as reliable for some of these setups. So a lot of it is going to go into that.
It definitely feels like T1 has more versatility, more options when it comes to avenues to victory. I love the point around for 400 Thieves. It's going to be probably bot lane focus, yes, with help from mid and jungle to make it happen. But Ssumday definitely feels at a disadvantage in the top lane.
I've got great news for North American fans, though.
I've been hoping for some great news.
Cloud9, pulled off the miracle yesterday, but 100 Thieves also have someone very, very close to miracle runs. Abbedagge was on Schalke with the LEC miracle run.
True fact.
So I have faith in him running one back here for 100 Thieves today.
They also specialize in heists, so I feel like it's all right there in front of us. Let's see if they can make it happen. That's enough out of us. Let's hand it back over to Atlas, Chronicler, and Wolf for the cast.
Thank you so much, Dash. And to add on to it as well, Kobe, as far as the Hopium is concerned, they also have a sprinkling of Australian players on the side of the 100 Thieves. So, maybe just one Aussie is all it takes to get you out of groups. We'll just have to see whether they can do it here against T1, which is going to be no mean feat, gentlemen.
It certainly is not going to be an easy one, that's for sure. And I'm excited to see how they perform, though. And as somewhat bullish on T1 for this tournament, I'm hoping T1 performs well tonight. I hope they do continue to look good, because so far in this group they have been very strong. And maybe this is the hiccup that gets into your head a little bit as T1. Maybe you struggle against EDG later on. I still think they're getting out of this group, but this is a really important stepping stone to that match that we're going to get to after this.
Yep, and here we are into Champion Select for our second game of the day. T1 will be on the blue side this time around. Kitty Cat banned away by 100 Thieves.
Sad.
And a couple of mid laners taken away from Abbedagge. You could imagine that, the whole Abbedagge thing, it's not something that FLICKR really wants to be spoken about anymore, and they're going to remove some champions.
Making sure that there is the possibility, and I assume the TF will be banned, because that is what 100% T1 is going to first pick if it is not banned away by 100 Thieves. And I do agree with what the desk was saying earlier. I think as 100 Thieves, you have two options in my opinion. Either you try to play for FBI and huhi, try to put Gumayusi and Keria on the back foot, or you make sure that closer can snowball. But that's obviously a tough ask with the performance that Oner had thus far. There is the TF ban.
Yeah, I was going to say, finally, FLICKR's not allowed to play this one, because this is where you could just really have an incredibly tough time on the top half of the map. And I thought maybe we'd see Lee Sin priority here since it is left open, but we're going to go straight into the Aphelios, just blind, straight up.
Yeah, this is what Lyric was talking about, the Aphelios and the Lulu. That has been something that we've seen a fair bit. But the Lee Sin, of course, obviously, if it's going to be given away, it's going to be snapped up. Of course, Closer, very, very happy with that particular gift. We'll see what they are going to pair it with.
And it's an interesting call from T1. Not only giving up the lead that Oner has looked great on, also foregoing the MF. Right, a pick that has actually been the highest priority in terms of AD carries, that has been regarded as one of, if not the strongest picks, incredible in team fights, lane dominant. But T1 clearly favoring Gumayusi on one of his most iconic and comfortable champions. And to be fair to T1, we have also seen them win matchups that they should not be winning with Aphelios Lulu or Aphelios Thresh, similar setups. And it does look like it will be the Thresh into specifically Leona. Does make a lot of sense, and Keria can single-handedly win games on the pick as well.
Yeah, if you end up going to Lulu here, I think you're very fragile in terms of that bottom matchup there. So I do like this pick quite a bit. Still have that jungle pick open, and we saw the Jarvan hover moments ago, and they will actually lock it in. I'm a little bit concerned about this one, especially when you could see the mobility that the composition that 100 Thieves has already. And now, because it's so early in the draft, they continue to play around this. Canna going to be so strong into this too, because you're engaging in. You give him a really nice opportunity, as long as he doesn't get caught, of course. I'm personally not a huge fan of the Jarvan right now in this meta, so we'll see how this one plans out. But it's so face up.
I was just thinking about the Ezreal tweet that's coming through now about the Jarvan, saying that 100 Thieves are going to be able to take this one, as Ezreal is going to be picked away here for FBI. And I actually just love the stability of these three champions that 100 Thieves have.
It's a 2-for-1 deal. It's really good into the Aphelios. You outrange him and try to mitigate its impact as much as you can. Obviously in lane, not too much pressure, but it doesn't really matter. You're Ezreal, you're looking to get to 2 items as fast as you can and then go from there. And it's also really good into the Jarvan. One of Jarvan's strengths is that I do think that he makes the MF a little bit weaker. You will be very stationary when you use your bullet time. And if Jarvan can either find a Cataclysm or an interrupt when you don't have your flash available, there is a lot of pressure there. But with the Ezreal, you negate a lot of impact of the pick, right? Just by the virtue of having your Arcane Shift in addition to your flash, it becomes a lot harder for Oner to actually play to that bot side.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I just don't like picking this Jarvan early. If you're going to pick something like this, you can save it until later, prioritize something else, and this just gives 100 Thieves so much time to be reactionary here, as we'll actually see the Renekton banned away here from Ssumday. And in terms of what we're going to see FLICKR player, it's still very much up in the air. I do like the Azir ban quite a bit because it's going to be safe in all scenarios with a draft like this. You have a lot of engage potential. You're going to have a lot of scaling that's added to that Aphelios. It's going to be strong later on. And your mid game is very strong with the Jarvan and that Azir.
It's going to be Orianna, right?
Oh, is it Orianna Cannon? Is that what we're going to see?
No, it's Orianna for T1 if it's not picked up by 100 Thieves, because I already see the Jarvan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I feel like this last round of Orianna
100%.
Cannon is like the most obvious, let's add circles to the circles type style. Of course, it's not a circle that when Thresh puts down the box, but you understand what I'm referring to as the Aurelia going to be taken away, of course. Very high priority. Surprising that it got through here as T1 are going to take away the cannon themselves. And Silas now being considered.
Would love to see the Silas versus Orianna into FLICKR here, but it looks like he's just actually going to deny that pick away. You know, and a lot of other compositions with a lot of other different AD carries, if they had the Ezreal, for example, or the Jinx, I would even potentially like FLICKR on the Zoe here, considering the enemy's composition, but it's just so risky with what you have already, and it de-synergizes with this Jarvan in a lot of ways, unless you can hit that poke every time consistently, but you're dealing with a Leona in the front line. This feels so risky to pull this one out.
Jayce Zoe could come in though for sort of that
if you get both, for sure.
Take control of that mid game theoretically, and Jayce obviously something that we love here in the LCK, and Canna is going to be on it one more time. Definitely massive comfort for him.
I actually think the 100 Thieves composition, like, they drafted so well into what T1 likes to do, right? Like, the Aphelios comes out, and immediately, there's so much range available. Orianna, Ezreal, all these champions make it really hard for Gumayusi to actually have an impact. It will be that Zoe Jayce combo. Now, that as a unit, I quite like, but you have one half of the T1 comp that wants to play very far forward, and you have one half that wants to kite back, right? And I think the link here is the Thresh, which can kind of do both. This is perfect. I didn't have the time to mention it, but you guys know I would have. Malphite into basically everything, but specifically at Jayce is beautiful.
I mean, especially because this composition, this backline is very fragile, but the front line comes to you, right? So you have a lot of ways to engage with this. You could chip away. The top matchup is going to be fun to play here for Ssumday, and I'm looking at this situation, and if you remove the nameplates here, I feel so heavily in favor of 100 Thieves draft here. They got everything they wanted. They took away some of the strong points here of T1. And outside of the Orianna potentially getting caught, which seems very unlikely by this Jarvan, the Jarvan pick feels very weak going to the later stages of the game.
Main thing for me is that there will be a window in which the T1 champions have early prio, and we saw in the last game how much EDG was able to do with that. But I think that if there is no early pressure coming out from T1 and they go into the mid game on even footing with a composition like this into the team fight power that is provided by 100 Thieves, it's going to be a tall ask.
Yeah, no, I actually 100% agree with you, and I think that if there's no nameplates, this looks like a complete steamroll from 100 Thieves. Like, this composition, absolutely beautiful. It almost plays itself. I mean, like, Malphite ultimate into Solar Flare into Shockwave. Like, no one's doing anything for multiple seconds. And it's just beautiful the way that it is going to work. They have pick opportunities as well with Leona and Lee Sin. And, of course, FBI going to be extraordinarily safe on the Ezreal. But let's get into it and see whether 100 Thieves can make it work. Level 6 is going to be so important for this team. But as you guys already accurately mentioned, T1 on a lot of comfort and a lot of early priority. So how they can leverage that is going to be very, very important, especially if you're a LCK fan. And we've seen, like, the last time that we saw Keria play Thresh was quite a while ago, but he won a game by himself, basically.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable.
A lot of Titanic references in that one.
Yes.
It's a good day. I remember that one. I gotta say, though, like, the range problem is somewhat shored up by this poke, and you mentioned it before it even got locked in. If you go Jayce and Zoe, you have your own amount of long range to kind of poke and siege away at 100 Thieves before the Jarvan engage comes through, before Aphelios comes in and drops down his ultimate. And it really is just sink or swim with this style of composition. You need to hit that poke, and if you don't, I mean, I think 100 Thieves win every single objective fight later on.
And also, if you see Oner go in and Cataclysm in the backline, it's like this competition between Oner and Ssumday. And who's going to win that? I think the Malphite just launching himself into the backline of this Aphelios. Like, Keria's Lanterns are going to have to be so good if 100 Thieves get the kind of team fights that they're looking for. As FLICKR walks over a ward, but is going to get some vision down here for himself. His close is going to start off on the blue buff.
Yeah, it's basically snowball or bust. If you do actually get ahead with this T1 composition, you're able to take control of the enemy jungle, get an early mid turret, and deny vision. Then 100 Thieves, as good as that team fight is, should never be in a position where they can actually walk up, right? And in that scenario, I do think that the T1 comp is very strong. We have seen them play that, but at the same time, we've also seen T1 play a comp like this, get ahead, and then not actually be able to play it out clean enough. And that's always something that, no matter what the lead is going to be here, and I do expect T1 to build a lead, is it ever going to be enough to withstand the power, to withstand a single mistake that can get punished so heavily by a composition that presses all its R buttons and then blows up your entire team?
Yeah, the ease of execution is definitely there for 100 Thieves, I would say. Zoe, also another champion where FLICKR has had some very strong games this year. He hasn't played it all too often, but when he does play it, we've seen some games where he gets a triple kill by himself, 1v3, in some really big clutch scenarios around Baron pits. So, I mean, look for this guy to show you why he's the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, and also he's been very outspoken about how good he is on Zoe as well. I actually haven't heard FLICKR talk about many other champions that he plays with reference to just how good he is, but he's been very outspoken as how good he is on the Zoe. As remember, everyone, you can let us know what you think FLICKR is really good at using the hashtag Verizon5G all chat. And tell us exactly how you think 100 Thieves are also going to potentially be able to win this game. As Closer is going to walk over a ward. Canna's already down to about 50% though. Ssumday moving on forward. See whether he can survive. Teleport to come forward. Canna is going to be saved. FLICKR going to move up though, and that is going to be now a very sleepy Lee Sin, and first blood goes to FLICKR. T1, turn it all around.
You make one overextension, you make one mistake, and you're going to get punished for it. FLICKR hits the sleep there perfectly. Threads, I mean, not even really threading the needle. It was a pretty easy shot, but he doesn't falter, he doesn't miss, and that's a guaranteed kill.
And I wonder whether 100 Thieves was aware of where Oner started, because if you are, you know that the J4 will be in the general vicinity. Oner went for a red into Raptors into Grump, or a blue and Grump rather, and even without the teleport, like just having Oner pop up there as well, this could have backfired very, very easily. And I don't think you need to really try and play as aggressive as 100 Thieves. We already established. If you play it slow, I think that you have a huge edge in this game. It's up to T1 to make the plays.
Yeah, I mean, also, don't forget, Canna could have flashed too if this goes in a different way. If FLICKR doesn't come, like, he probably gets out. You would have maybe got the flash, so maybe that's the idea here. You take that flash away from a Jayce, and suddenly that Malphite becomes a lot more threatening with Lee Sin there on the top side of the map, but they get neither the Jayce nor the flash there. Yeah, and rough tidings here for the 100 Thieves.
Ssumday also demonstrating why Malphite is the best at closing out backs, because you have that shield. It's not going to actually be stopped when someone drops a flag on you. Fantastic stuff.
Really nice crossplay here by Closer, who has been, I think, one of the most threatening members on 100 Thieves, if you look at the domestic run as well. Incredible at snowballing advantages around the map, able to get Raptors, and now the teleport comes in.
Yeah, looking for the dive is Gumayusi. Going to be burning down, flashes away. His Closer just flashes right on top of him, safeguards his way out. He will be fine, but now FLICKR is going to turn up. Once again, the Lee Sin having a bit of a nap at the wrong time, and 100 Thieves now looking to try and turn it back around. Huhi looks for FLICKR, but FLICKR's just going to walk his way out. Oner looking for that one extra auto attack, but the Q is going to be enough. FLICKR does eventually fall down, but not after landing another bubble that is then turned around. FBI looking for even more as he picks up a double kill. Keria, 250 health, not able to actually do much back, and now it's double buffs on the Ezreal.
Yeah, double buffs to Ezreal. FLICKR losing a little bit of farm there in the middle of the map, but still really nice mechanical defensive plays so that if you're on the side of T1, the teleport comes through, and you have so much time here actually as T1 with this Gumayusi flash. You force Closer to commit into that jump, and now FLICKR's got the ability to thread that needle once again.
I love the identification from 100 Thieves here though, because they realized that we know Oner was on top side, we know he's gone back, and in the end, I actually think this trade favors 100 Thieves. If you look, FBI doesn't get over the wall, but he does get the kill, and then double on an Ezreal this early on is going to help him accelerate so much, and I think getting either the Ori or the Ezreal to a point where they are a legitimate threat in the early game is going to make T1's task so much harder, because that means that you can't just take out any person, you take out a specific individual. With the front line that 100 Thieves is available, I think it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, if they had have got the kill on Abbedagge, then maybe it would have been better for T1, but I think 100 Thieves 100% came out on top of that one. Huhi now rotating towards this mid lane. Not seen by T1 right now, but FLICKR not going to be moving any further forward than he should.
Ssumday was nearby as well. So the question mark pings going down there, knowing that he was very likely in the city. A lot of respect shown here in the mid lane for FLICKR. Ssumday's just going to head right back up. This means 100 Thieves get this opportunity to come over here and steal away this red.
They're effectively cross-mapping here, and again, really loving this from 100 Thieves, playing very, very proactive. Oner now, he senses something is off, and Keria is going to spot them out. Maybe another skirmish here.
Yep. Oner's going to look for a few of those popcorn chickens as FLICKR. Dissonance going to connect. Does a fair bit of damage there, but just going to move his way back. Portal jump, pretty good for making sure that you can reposition. Now Gumayusi 1 versus 2 right now, but Keria is going to come back down once again. And Guma still in a decent spot when it comes to farm and things like that, but FBI with those couple of kills that he's picked up earlier, that 2-item power spike that Ezreal always looks for is going to be coming so much faster this game.
Yeah,
which is going to be huge for 100 Thieves.
It's so scary when you consider, you know, the late game that this composition has, but when you already are struggling to keep that advantage as T1 early, it means the range advantage that you're going to have as Ezreal, the ability to poke down a Jarvan who's trying to engage onto targets that will either survive or will be able to escape, right, oftentimes, makes it so terrifying to think about what 100 Thieves comp is going to look like in 5-6 minutes time.
And it's not a Canna wave, so I think that what Abbedagge and Huhi are going to do is going to shove it in. That we see Arcane Barrage already used, because they know what T1 is going to do. T1's going to do what they always do, and that's going to go for a full commit on the enemy Herald.
That's what they always do.
Even though Guma was kind of going back and forth on it, we saw him kind of be unsure what to go for. Looks like T1 is going to fully commit, but like I said, not a Canna wave, so 100 Thieves should be able to pick up like a couple of plays on both sides.
Yep, they are going to cancel those backs, so it looks like 100 Thieves are just going to say, all right, we'll trade this one. But with all of the extra time, the fact that there's a Sheen on FBI right now, they should be able to get a second plate here before T1 make it back down. But Guma did go back a little bit earlier, so perhaps we'll be able to just pick up the farm and 100 Thieves are going to go back. So it actually works out quite well for T1. And they're not going to run into that issue that they've had in the past, which is go for every single Herald without fail. This time they did do that, but they didn't fail. It was fine.
Yeah, didn't get punished for it, and I mean, minus those plates, of course, on the bottom side.
Yeah, I think they did lose their like straight up goal advantage, and they do have the Herald still in the back pocket. And I think that the main thing that I'm looking for T1 for now is find a dive somewhere and try and get an actual first turret bot, because that is definitely going to make it worth your while. But thus far, we don't see T1 pulling ahead to the extent that I think they need to with this comp. And if they can't get a mid lane turret anywhere in the next 5 to 10 minutes, 100 Thieves are going to feel completely comfortable going into this mid lane.
Got to get that wolf turret for the Zoe, first turret there if you can in the mid lane, so she has a lot more power. It has the ability to, of course, poke and chip through parts of 100 Thieves jungle, and it's going to be a lot freer. 100 Thieves keep stealing away these small amounts of camps. They're taking vision control here. You're forcing Oner to clear this right now. They don't have any vision. T1 don't on the Drake. Well, they don't have cryo at bottom. So forcing a lot of rotations over here, a lot of resources. Oner had to come down there to check that out. And you're not losing in terms of real permanent leads as T1, because you can, of course, take that gold lead with the Rift Herald. But as you guys have pointed out, the tempo that you want to have with this trap, the small advantages you want to have before the Ezreal comes online, they're not really hitting it. Now, yes, you group up for the Drake, but if 100 Thieves just skip this fight, they're going to feel very comfortable, I'd say, to give this one up.
Yeah, they don't need to fight for this if they don't want to. I feel like 100 Thieves have themselves a composition that if you walk into a river both sets of 5 champions, you're going to be pretty happy past 25 minutes.
Yeah.
As 100 Thieves. Abbedagge are going to get exhausted here in the mid lane. Good sidestep there from Oner, avoids the Sonic Wave. Closer not going to be able to close the gap onto the Jarvan.
And here you see the payoff for that play that 100 Thieves made earlier on the bot side of the map. Yeah, they traded a couple of kills, but now FBI already has his Divine Sunderer finished this early on. not even 11 minutes into the game, and that's going to give a lot more threat to an Ezreal if they do decide to opt into an early team fight. A lot of all the ultimates also online, so this is where it starts to get scary for T1. This is where they really need to make sure that they keep it clean and they get that poke going.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first times I've seen the MasterCard Mythic come up, and it wasn't a Gore Drinker.
Yeah.
So congratulations to FBI for beating the junglers to the punch this time around. Yeah.
Canna going to grab an extra plate here on the top side of the map. You can see FLICKR was looking to potentially look for a play up there too. Ssumday returns, but they're not going to find that. And it's going to be that free Drake going over to 100 Thieves here. And in terms of what you gain as 100 Thieves here, yes, the plate gold is huge, and it is nice for Canna to pick that up early. But having Drake tempo advantage when your comp is already stronger to the late game, you're really liking this exchange in terms of the two objectives gained. You got the better one.
Yeah, and Oner also happy feeding a little bit here as 100 Thieves is just going to walk up the river. Should be able to take this Rift Scuttler with huhi lying in wait. Keria gets that ward right on top of the Leona. And with Keria turning up, looks like they might be able to get some work done here as Ssumday taking a fair bit of damage. Canna still able to get through the tankiness of the Malphite at this stage. That is going to be the Rift Herald secured. Shockwave going to connect onto FLICKR, but there is a Lantern immediately, so the Solar Flare is not going to work out. 100 Thieves throwing out a few ultimates. T1 having the answers.
And I think T1 was looking for that first Herald Blood on top side, able to crash Shirley into that free-play turret, maybe look for some aggressive play on Ssumday. And they will go for it now, but I think 100 Thieves is very ready for this. Don't think they should give up the full turret, might give up the 2 plates, but again, not the end of the world.
They want to commit though.
Keria going to come on forward as Oner's going to flash away. The box comes forward as there's the Cataclysm. Great flayback onto Ssumday, denies his escape, and we do get all of those plates coming on over to T1. True Shot Barrage, not going to find Oner. Now huhi's going to look for his way out, and he does so. Teleport to come forward from Abbedagge, but this turret is already dead. The teleport was to the mid lane. 100 Thieves just going to give this one up.
Well, that was really nice reactionary play. Excuse me, hard word to say sometimes.
Reactive-tionary?
Yeah, reactive shenanigans here. The Keria getting the play there was huge, but the reaction there from Oner as well to drop the Cataclysm down, catch that Malphite who's going in. As we see a very great trade here from FLICKR in the mid lane. Was just really quick thinking here from T1. It was very much a setup play. They know that Ssumday could have gone in on that. I think Ssumday, if he had just been a little bit more patient there, could have gotten a lot more value out of that ultimate.
That's something that I wanted to go into as well, because I don't think you need to play it that fast as 100 Thieves.
Yeah. I
think you have a little bit more time. We did see some people roam up from the mid lane, which might have been an opportunity for them to counter.
Well, Finch938 has said, I really love FLICKR's Lissandra. His ability to juke every situation and still get kills was what really made me love this guy. Hoping to see it maybe once this world. See whether he picks it into Scout, perhaps. In the next game, could be a thing. Of course, Scout has already played it so far today, so it's a champion that should be in the meta.
That would imply that Scout has LeBlanc. And I don't know if that's a preferable gameplay situation if you are T1, but I agree.
I mean, if you want to see FLICKR's Lissandra,
well, that's
then
that's the condition.
If that's the win condition right there, getting him to play it, then we don't mind about which matchup it's in.
Yeah, tweet at T1 and ask them not to ban it, so we could maybe have that exchange, because that is definitely where Lissandra is in this meta as a specific counter pick. Otherwise, you probably won't be seeing it. But hey, fingers crossed, right? Anything is possible.
And what we saw there was, I think, the first time that T1 really unfavorably traded cross-map against 100 Thieves, who does have been able to keep up very, very nicely. He does get the cannon.
Oof, I was a bit scared for a second.
Yeah, me too. Because getting that first blood is one thing, but simultaneously Gumayusi was able to pick himself up a number of plates in the bot side as well, just before they dropped. Now the second arrow is coming through, and we're now slowly starting to see the acceleration that T1 need. Still think that for 100 Thieves, there's going to be plenty of opportunities, but you need to clean it up a little bit, because this is where the T1 comp is at its scariest. You have the 1 Mythics finished, and if they can snowball here, then every further step for you becomes incrementally hard.
Yeah, and the mid turret here, if T1 are able to get it, is arguably way more valuable than that bottom turret is going to be for their composition. So yes, they left Ssumday down there, he's going to get some extra gold here, but this is the fight that you really, you can't take as 100 Thieves just yet, and you're going to give over a much stronger objective because you just simply gave the Herald for free while committing to that bottom turret.
Oh, you're going to take a lot of damage there with the empowered shot blast after the sleep came through as well. Shirley going to get a double charge. She's got a headache, but T1 are very, very happy about it. as that was the Wolf turret going down.
There it goes.
If you didn't know, this was Wolf's absolute favorite analytical point, was talking about how if you take a mid lane turret as Zoe, you're extremely happy.
Yeah, that's why we call it the Wolf turret.
We do.
They get it because it's more valuable than the turret that Ssumday was trying to take out bottom side there, which he didn't. I'm not actually sure, but I don't think he actually got the gold for.
No.
So that makes the cross-map play, if you could call it that, feel even worse. And these are some small macro mistakes from 100 Thieves that really, really hurt.
Well, we were already talking about it, but of course, the battle in the jungle is where we're going to be focusing on in our Mercedes matchup of the day. EDG versus T1 last time. Was EDG able to come out ahead? We'll see whether T1 can fight back better in our next game, coming right after this.
Very soon, T1 going to get this Drake for free here. See a big group up for a top turret here for 100 Thieves. And again, that first Drake that they got means that this buffer that you have with a first Drake advantage is really nice for the Ezreal that's scaling up. Already is halfway towards his Muramana being completed. Gonna trade a turret for a turret at the same time though, and you're not getting anything back here. Really, at the end of the day, yeah, you feel comfortable how you're going towards the late game. You are kind of slowing the game down in this way, but T1 are getting better trades on the map.
And what's key here for 100 Thieves, I say, as more of their base crumbles, is you need to try and keep a semblance of control on the map. Because you are going to be able to, no matter what the gold says, punish missteps from T1, and we know that they've made those at times. The problem is, to do that, you need either vision or a deep ward that will allow Ssumday to go for a deep flank. If you have no vision control whatsoever on the map, and you're going to have to walk straight up over all the vision that T1 has been setting up ever since they dropped that mid lane turret, and every time they go for an objective, it's going to be physically impossible for you to have the health bar necessary to actually utilize how strong your team fighting is. And even though the gold, I think, is looking fine, it's going to be more about who can take the vision control, because once 100 Thieves are fully locked in their base, I don't know if they can get out.
Yeah, and we were having a look at the gold there just for a moment. If you remember back, FBI had a 1,000 gold lead, and now it's 100. Gumayusi really has managed to pick up a whole bunch of that local gold from turrets, turret plates, things like this, and the Aphelios is well and truly feeling good.
Now, this is a play you can make around vision like you were talking about, Chronicler. If you have that control right now, T1 just step over the line for an instant. You have such explosive power with this composition, but T1 respecting the fact that they know they don't know, and are just going to slowly play around this, eventually toss that ward over into the Raptor camp. They are able to swallow the Lantern, that control ward, and they should be able to clear that one out shortly as well.
Big thing here is that the initial Drake that 100 Thieves was able to get for themselves substantially slow down T1. Unless T1 want to go for an aggressive Baron play, which they have been known to do, and I think they can, provided they are able to actually get control of the topside jungle, as we see Keria do now. It is going to take a long time for them to actually stack up these Mountain Drakes, and also they can't give it over to 100 Thieves, because once 100 Thieves start stacking Mountains, it's downhill very, very fast as aggressive jungle invade.
Yep, they already have one Mountain. His name's Ssumday. As FLICKR pops on over into the Bramble Pit. Huhi taking 50% health as the teleport's going to come through from Abbedagge. So 100 Thieves, they lose their split on the bottom side and that teleport advantage they had there. Is T1 now looking to pressure towards that top side. FLICKR's spellbook has turned into some fire, so he doesn't have teleport right now either. So theoretically, 100 Thieves should be fine as far as teleports are concerned. It's still 3,000 gold the lead for T1.
Sleep.
As FBI gets sleepy, does have himself the cleanse as the shockwave is just going to deny T1 a lot of defensive ultimate usage here from 100 Thieves as they're bullied out of their own jungle.
At some point, you do have to fight for this vision in your own jungle, though, as 100 Thieves. At some point, you have to say our composition is online now, because if you just sit back for the entirety of this mid-game, all right, we'll go for that late game, we're going to late game scale up, get this Orianna online. We have so much engaged tools, we have this Ezreal. If you wait forever, then you never have vision, and then you're always walking into Shock Blast, you're always walking into these bubbles and the poke that the Battle Stars are going to have here from FLICKR, and you just can't give up this much control of the map. Now is the time to start actually fighting for some of that vision. Your composition is starting to have some power. You do have that 2-item spike coming online here for FBI. You've got to take some skirmishes. You can't just press the surrender button in terms of these small fights.
Good thing for 100 Thieves is they are approaching 2 big item spikes. Abbedagge about to finish his Seraphs, already has the tier 40 stacked, has a nearly large rod, and then FBI is close to actually upgrading his Muramana. That was the item power spike we were talking about when he got those couple of kills earlier, and that's the point where the 100 Thieves is actually, or composition rather, actually has a sizable threat. And I expect from that point onwards to see them play a lot more aggressive. Whereas this Drake, I think you can still give up. I think it's the next one that you really got to be worried about once you start giving over that soul point, because then T1 can kind of drag you around the map and also kind of disallow you, because we haven't even talked about the possibility, especially with Abbedagge's teleport being down right now, of T1 trying to kind of pull it apart, right? Try to get side lane pressure through Canna, who, while he probably won't kill Ssumday, if you give enough time, possibly he could. Ssumday very far behind in the current state of the game, and while he's tanky, I don't know if it's enough in the long run. As like a vision here.
Well, all of 100 Thieves all grouped up here in this mid lane. They want to be team fighting as T1 looking to try and split them up as best they can. Huhi down to 50% one more time. As FLICKR lands another bubble. This time it is onto the Malphite as Ssumday taken down.
I mean, not any magic resistance on this champion. He's going to take a lot of damage when he does get hit by those. You go down to half health, and then suddenly you don't have any engage opportunities.
But when 100 Thieves use all of their engage tools onto FLICKR, Ssumday becomes immortal. That's what happens if he stacks all of this armor, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, you understand how these 5v5s are supposed to work for 100 Thieves, but right now is when T1 is strong. This is the mid game, this is Zoe time, this is Jayce time, and 100 Thieves just biding their time.
I partially agree. At the same time, look at the itemization from Gumayusi. He also realizes that and has gone for that Lord Dominic's second. And that means that even if someday if they go too hard on FLICKR, but Guma gets to stand in the back line and spin around a whole lot, as we know he loves to do on the Aphelios, that still remains a viable threat. So I do think that while we talk a lot about, yes, in the late game, in a team fight, 100 Thieves should have an edge, still believe that is true. I think that T1 have less opportunities for missteps. At the same time, if you over-index on a FLICKR and a Canna, and you're unable to do with Gumayusi, provided that he doesn't get blown up instantly and he actually gets in range, which against Ori and Ezreal generally shouldn't happen. But if you do overstep, he will also shred through
the problem is that the Orianna and the Ezreal can't stop you from closing that gap if there's no vision. Look at the map right now. I see one ward on the blue side of the map for 100 Thieves. The bottom side of the red jungle is completely warded by T1. They've got vision control on both the Baron Pit and the Drake. So, you know, in terms of the range advantage we talk about, it doesn't matter if you're fighting blind, right? And T1 have done such a good job of moving together and clearing that vision off. And 100 Thieves have never actually been confident enough to contest it, because I think the composition is still a little bit too fragile. I think if you play too safe around this, eventually you're just always going to be throwing darts at a dartboard in the dark. You're not going to actually be able to hit any of that damage, and you're always going to feel very timid in these upcoming fights.
I like that 100 Thieves play around the fact that they did hit FLICKR with a True Shot Barrage, so able to now move into this river, get some vision down. They so desperately wanted. Oner thinking about a flanking play as Canna splitting towards the bottom side of the map as FLICKR just looking for these paddle stars, looking for whatever sleeps he can find. Closer going to be spotted. Oner checks him out. FLICKR going to land another paddle star, but no one's sleepy just yet. Gumayusi underneath this turret, just going to tidy up this mid lane. So we get the big zoom out, Ssumday and Canna. Ssumday losing out as far as the health trades are concerned, but he should be okay defending for the moment.
And here we see again how much T1 loves playing out Canna on Jayce. Specifically this pick, his entire team continues to set up vision for him in the bot side jungle. They're all hovering, they're walking in and out of fog. They're making sure that Canna can actually play as far up as he does. And we already see them got them the mid lane turret, and I think it's not going to be that long off before we see them go for something similar on a side lane turret, which is going to be even more gold into the pockets of T1 and might have them hit those item breakpoints.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the picks that T1 fans have either loved or hated for Canna all year long.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been a big fan of his Jayce, but there have been some inconsistencies. There have been some moments where he's gotten gapped by a lot of top laners in the LCK or has made some poor decisions with positioning, but in games like this, when he is given so many resources and there is so much power for T1 on the map here, arguably I think more than they should have at this stage, then you can make those aggressive plays. You can even trade against a Malphite because you know there's no rotation coming because you have all that vision. And that vision that you talked about after that one early trade there with the True Shot Barrage came through that we saw for 100 Thieves for just a moment is now all wiped off the map here. And we're getting to a point where with this Aphelios, you can actually do a Baron pretty quickly if 100 Thieves don't have that vision. So True Shot Barrage here to check. You're so blind right now with 100 Thieves.
And let's not forget, if 100 Thieves win this game, this group is all of a sudden wide open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As FBI, he's got his Frozen Heart. This guy's extremely strong right now. But not going to be able to dive any turrets or anything like that right now. But 100 Thieves, you can feel the shift in momentum in this game. They're now starting to move a little bit further forward, trying to get more vision. You can see 2 control wards leading towards this Baron pit. T1 still with that control ward inside the pit itself. Otherwise, not too much more. As FLICKR here on the top side of the map. He's going to walk away. Closer, he's going to get sleepy once again. But FLICKR is just going to ghost his way out with the one that he filtered from the ground.
He's fighting tooth and nail over every ward in this Drake pit right now. But 100 Thieves, as you mentioned, like you could feel the hourglass turn to a certain extent here in terms of how brave they are on the map. And we might actually see a shock blast, or rather shockwave here from the Orianna finally at some point. Might actually see an engage here. 100 Thieves brave enough to fight now.
Yep, Ssumday is on the bottom side of the map. So that unstoppable force. Okay, flash out from Keria. Gonna have to respect. There's so much pick CC, non-committal here from 100 Thieves. They can just throw it out willy-nilly, see what sticks. And then Ssumday teleports in and dives on top of everyone.
And again, T1 is relying on vision. And currently the vision setup is not that good around this Drake. If they keep getting shots on 100 Thieves, sure, you're gonna feel fine. But with the control that 100 Thieves currently have, I think T1 are gonna recognize that and say, all in on the Baron.
Yeah, well, could be a second Drake here for 100 Thieves in trade for a Baron, which is not a trade that you'd want.
No vision again.
100 Thieves, but they are going to throw down that blue trinket. As T1, with their poke in position, they have taken away the vision of 100 Thieves as well, which is exactly what you need to do when you have this Jayce and the Zoe. Bubble, not quite going to connect there onto FBI, as Abbedagge takes a fair bit of damage.
Look how difficult it is to even close the distance on T1 when you don't have those wards and when there's so much consistent poke here available for T1. When even shock blasts like this are going to add up.
Yeah, bubble connects, and that is exactly what Ssumday doesn't really want to soak, because of course not a lot of magic resist at this point in time. Now positioning, repositioning around this Mountain Drake. Oner inside the pit, scoping it out. He's going to be able to flag drag his way over the wall. And 100 Thieves, they might just be able to take this one for free. Spotted now for T1. Let's see what they can actually do here. Teleport in from Abbedagge. It's going to be a defensive one as the Drowsy comes on in once again. FLICKR looks for more FBI in position to challenge, as it is going to be Closer that locks down the Dragon. Oner takes himself a lantern and does get himself out as FLICKR. Oh, Ssumday with the best item in the game. It's going to keep him alive.
He was just so late on coming in there as Abbedagge. I mean, he came in at the right timing to secure the Drake, and it was a teleport he was necessary to take, but he wasn't able to get an ultimate off there. He wasn't able to actually grab T1 when they're corralled like that. He was a little bit too late to arrive.
But now it's a free Baron.
Yeah, Abbedagge teleported in, and that means that if they don't try and hard force this, the Baron is going to go to T1.
Well, preemptive box comes through from Keria just to try and deny them from getting in, but this is just going to get rushed down and taken away by T1. A split-second decision, and T1 just walk away with a Baron.
There's got to be so much more decisive on the map here as 100 Thieves. Like, that fight over the Drake, yes, they were able to get the smite off, but I think that's a fight you can realistically take if you set up a little bit faster, if you set up a little bit better.
Yep, stealing a Baron from the Thieves, though, gentlemen, it's not exactly what we were expecting to see. 5,000 gold the lead, and that is only going to extend as this Baron power play continues. T1, they're even on Dragons. If this game goes ever further and they're not able to break down too much of the base with this Baron, then 100 Thieves still in an okay position. But otherwise, this is all great news for T1.
And I gotta say, 100 Thieves, I love how they played at skirmish, not afraid, standing their ground, identifying the threat that they have available, keeping Oner out of that pit. But then you do see kind of the reluctance, the trepidation as they back, and I think that's fine, but everyone then needs to at the very least threaten T1, make them uncomfortable, and they gave them just way too much space. I think that there is a scenario where as 100 Thieves, even with some of your health was a little bit low, at the very least you can pressure T1, maybe try and force a mistake, but instead you're getting sieged by a Zoe and Jayce composition.
Ooh, FLICKR getting engaged on his, gonna get kicked back as Closer also slowed down and taken to half health. 100 Thieves continuing to push back on T1, but another Baroned up wave of minions now moving towards their base. It's a back to come through from Closer.
It's just such an insane amount of siege here for T1. They just play it slow, and if you do commit in, as Closer did there, the chances that you're going to get blown up are so high at this stage, you really just have to play this one slow, and had they been more aggressive earlier, there would have been way more opportunities, but now you've just lost even further control over the map, and as 100 Thieves here, you just have to weather the storm. You don't have any opportunities here whatsoever. You can see where Canna is, so you know, okay, rotating over here, I'm going to take a shock blast. I mean, it's lose-lose right now until that Baron timer runs out.
We'll see whether T1 can actually push on forward and get some relevant damage onto these inhibitor turrets. So far, the answer has been no, as FBI has been pretty good at stopping these minions from even getting towards the turret. Bubble going to go a little bit wide as T1 transition into the mid lane. Ssumday throws out a wagon wheel, but he will get hooked and just blown up. Is he tanky? I don't know. Is that a shockwave to come forward as well? Guma taken down to about half, but T1 have different things on their mind. They jump underneath the turret. FBI's being exhausted. Flash forward from Canna, and the game might just be over right here. The flash forward from Gumayusi, unable to finish off the kill, but they will take down the mid lane inhibitor, and they will push forward for the end.
We were waiting for a scaling breakpoint that never happened, and that moment of hesitation. T1 take the Baron, and out of nowhere, they take the game.
Yeah, we were talking about the fact that 100 Thieves stood a chance, but there goes the Nexus. And unfortunately, that means that 100 Thieves are now eliminated from getting out of the group stage.
And this was a game where you had a great draft. We were praising it from bans and picks, and we knew that this composition was going to come online. We knew that if they actually grouped up, they had so many initiation tools. Malphite ultimate, you could toss it. You have the Orianna ultimate, but as you point out, Chronicler, they didn't even step across the line. They didn't even threaten. They didn't even make T1 wonder what would happen if they engaged, because they were always tucking tail and running, and you can't run away with a stronger late game comp all game long. Give up all that vision, give up those objectives, and hope to win a fight defending your Nexus. It just did not happen. It was a game where we waited forever, and we never saw the climax of T1 or 100 Thieves composition, rather.
And stealing that Baron, that's what it all came down to. It was a little bit of homework that was left unattended to by the 100 Thieves. And it was all too dark. They couldn't actually answer anything of what T1 did in that sort of mid to late game transition. Really clean stuff from T1. Of course, a whole bunch of comfort picks coming out from the Korean squad. But as T1 celebrate that win, make sure to check out LOL music like As We Fall in the League of Legends Hub on Spotify.
Tell me, where do I go? Tell me, where do I take us? Your heart is starting to slow. May the water be safe. As I dive in, bloodstains washing underneath the waves.
Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, where it's T1 who come out on top over 100 Thieves in a battle that in a lot of ways was 100 Thieves' last hope in order to make it out of this group stage, but T1 going to dash the hopes of many North American fans.
James, that was so hard to watch! Are you kidding me?
It was hard to watch. It really was, but for a few reasons, right? And I think all three of us shared this sentiment on the desk, and we'll get into a little bit of why that was, is that this was a winnable game, it felt like, by 100 Thieves. But Kobe, in so many ways, the early game breakdown, the way that you had talked about when we were over there by the telestrator, a topside focus, intelligent jungling, and attention pressure towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, so poke versus hard engage is one of my favorite matchups. These are compositional matchups that are as old as League of Legends itself. And the poke composition generally will have better lane matchups early on, and you need to accrue slowly these leads for you to be able to keep up your siege on towers and then poke your opponents out under towers. And then the 5-on-5 get their advantage when you get to group up and hard engage and force on the poke comp and make them collapse, make them crumble. But with some of these early plays, 100 Thieves, as you showed earlier in this clip, the top side, little focus there, no flash, gives away some first blood money to a Zoe, accelerating the damage of a poke composition. Double buffs did go over to FBI, so this play here was where there started to be some hope from 100 Thieves, but then they never refocused down there and never played off of FBI. It played off the Ezreal that actually benefited and got that money. They did another play on top side where they didn't account for the positioning of the support roam from Keria because the Thresh is then there. Your shield comes in, you can't get that kill, you give over the turret. And once you start snowballing turrets, this is the main objective of poke compositions, snowball these turrets, move from lane to lane, keep increasing your gold lead, keep up the pace of the game. Jayce gets fed, Zoe gets fed. Your poke damage pushes them off of objectives. You get there first, you set up, they have to face check you, they take more damage coming in, and you have to draw the line somewhere, James. You have to engage. If you don't have Malphite, Leona ultimate, you have to make them snap at some point, or else they just keep accruing this gold lead and push you all the way to your base.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like this game was winnable by 100 Thieves, and it was certain things like understanding of like tempo or certain side waves to give up where they had to find those opportunities. There's specifically one around Dragon where had Ssumday just like given up a neutral wave earlier, move first, 100 Thieves wouldn't have taken so much poke punishment, could have baited the Dragon earlier and not allowed for T1 to pull them to that Baron.
The one thing you cannot afford as hard engagement to poke is to be indecisive, because then you take more damage, you take more poke, and that's what happened. I do want to compliment SKT.
I'm just sorry, I'm pointing at the graphic because those numbers are nasty. And Lyra, you were the one who called out topside. That's been a point of weakness for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I mean, not even a weakness for 100 Thieves, but we talked about in the pregame, the versatility of T1, right? They have so many stars across all lanes. Canna has showed numerous times that he can be a lane-dominant player. And when T1 are willing to throw resources into him, I mean, he just made it shine.
Well, the thing I wanted to compliment SKT for there was how much respect they gave to the Leona ultimate specifically, instantly flashing. Nobody would put themselves in any compromising position. And when the other team is then also hesitant following that up, I think it's just really well-disciplined play from SKT, which is something you expect from this type of team. But then you look at the roster and you're like, oh yeah, they're incorporating all these rookies and they're showing this discipline with the poke composition. That really bodes well for them for the rest of the tournament.
Kobe, I have been waiting an entire decade for Western teams to start flashing abilities when they first see them, and I'm still waiting for that here at the 2021 World Championship. We're stepping away for a moment, but we will be right back to set the stage for EDG versus T1. Don't touch that browser.
Can't believe that Daniel deal you got me on my insurance.
Daniel, State Farm offers surprisingly great rates to everyone.
Sure you do. You want to meet the queen?
I'm not dressed for that. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Would you ride for me? Handshake, one of a kind, homie. I be trying to vibe on the wave. I'm a big need vibe